because, as I was preparing for today and thinking about this, and yes, we can go on for days around just hospitality and the hotel industry. But I think that there's so many lessons learned that other industries can get from this conversation, right? So, one thing is, right, we're hearing more and more around inclusion. And a big part of inclusion for me is ensuring that there's no erasure.
Yes.
Right. And so that's the
Yes.
exclusionary piece of the work that's getting attacked. And so as organizations are thinking about the experiences that they want their customers, and I'm air quoting customers, to have when it comes to feeling included, right? Like they are in that green book, or per se. What does that look like? What does that feel like? And I air quote customer because for me, your customer is external, but it's also internal.
Great point.
Right? Like your employees are your customers as
Absolutely.
well.
Are you speaking my language, Sacha? Keep on. Come on, bring it.
So talk to us about the customer experience and what that means when it comes to inclusion and being a part of something where I feel valued, right? Regardless if I'm an employee or a paid customer, client, etc.
Yeah, wow. You spoke to my heart when you said that your employees are your customers. I have a quote that I have created. There is no positive customer experience until you have a positive employee experience first.
Yes.
Everything you do for a customer service standpoint, customer experience, it comes from your team. And if your team doesn't feel included,
yep,
guess what's going to happen? That's going to point to the customer experience. So I am one of those people, when I get on stage, I'm hammering that all day. Take care of your team. They will take care of your customer. And if your team feels included, it will transition over to the customer experience. So I am big on training people. You can't train a person one time and think they're going to become this customer experience expert. You have to continually train people, making sure you're treating people with respect, understanding people come from different experiences, making sure you can personalize experience for your guests or whatever your customers when you can. Because I love where we're going with AI. I know there's a whole thing about it can be dangerous. Yes, I think those people do. There are people out there that use it for the wrong reasons. But when it's done right, I think it can be very useful, particularly when you are in the customer experience space, because there are ways that you can automate a lot of things that are task oriented and become very mundane. If you're doing this, if AI can take care of that stuff, that will leave more time for an employee to engage with the customer.
Yes.
And when you do that and build relationships with customers, get to know who they are, all of those things, and personalize experiences for them, it's going to make you stand out. I have, sadly, I've come from a background. I've been in this industry a long time, Sacha. I mean, I started as a desk clerk at a Holiday Inn in Chicago, which is where I'm from. And back then we focused on taking care of the customer. I think when COVID came, the whole pandemic, I think once that was over, things had changed so much. And particularly in the hospitality industry, a lot of employees in that industry felt abandoned by a lot of organizations that just cut them off.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they were just like, and then when things started picking up, oh, come back, we're still a family. People are like, no, we're not. You just, we didn't treat me like family.
Right. It's a dysfunctional family, maybe, but
right. And so now I think the industry is really still trying to rebuild that, what we once had. So the organizations that will continue to do well are the ones that will focus on their culture and making sure that people feel like they're seen and recognized. And if you do that with your team, they will do it for the customers. But there's no way you can expect an employee to treat a customer well if they feel like they're not being treated well.
Absolutely. There's a data point that I use because I do a lot of work around psychological safety and creating psychologically safe workplaces. And 1/4 of employees, if they have a bad experience, if they have a psychologically unsafe experience, take it out on their customers.
Yes.
That's like 1/4.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you think about that, especially in industries that are very customer facing, and we are now at a time and age where you have a bad experience, you're not going to go put in a comment card. You're going to go to social media and tell everybody that you had a bad experience, and it's going to get piled upon. And then now you have a PR nightmare.
Yes, you do.
Yes, so, you do. To your point around, you have to focus on the team and the team experience, because if they are happy and satisfied, then that's going to show, right? That's the ripple effect of how they're going to show up with their customers and clients, etc.
Absolutely. And that's why you have to make sure, and this is a biggie, and you got to make sure your leaders, you got to have the right leaders in place. And if you don't train them, it's bad shit. I think we do have a leadership crisis out there.
Absolutely.
And so I can't remember the study, but it was they were asking a lot of there were younger people that said they didn't even want to go into management but the main reason they didn't want to do it was because they felt like they needed the training.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of organizations are putting people in roles because they did a really good job in one thing. They'll automatically promote them, but with no people leadership skills.
I say it all the time. I'm like, you were promoted because you're good with a widget.
Yes.
You're not promoted because of your people skills.
Exactly. And they don't realize that there's a totally different skill set to motivating and engaging a team. It is not the same thing. You got to be able to understand why are one-on-ones important? Why should I do those? How do I get them? How do I identify what their strengths are? How do I leverage those strengths? How do I help them grow? How do I make them feel cohesive and collaborate with one another? That is a totally different skill set than you being a great salesperson.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because, this is the work that I do now, right? It's that leadership development. It's helping them. Yes. And I'm very focused on, and you spoke to it a little bit earlier, but I call it like human-centered leadership. Let's focus on the human, right? Yes. Not the task. The task will get done. It's how do you support and shape the human that is there? Even if AI is there, okay, they're going to take the mundane task. You still have to manage this person and understand who they are. And I think that is such a critical piece of this. And then you also spoke to something. My mom and I've talked about this. My mom was in banking for ever. Her first career was in banking forever. And she said, before she could manage a person, the bank had a university that she had to go through courses.
Yes.
And how to manage and lead and, all of those things before she could even manage a person.
Yes.
And so that has been seen as a waste of money, a time. Then we got into this kind of industrial mindset of let's just check the box to say, these tasks are getting done. Forget about the person. We can get any person to come in here and do this. COVID totally changed that because now people are like, wait a minute, I'm human.
Yep.
I need to balance work, life, everything. I'm not leaving a part of myself at the door. I'm bringing my whole self to work. And part of that might be my mental health. Part of that might be my physical health. Part of that might be, all of these things. And so what I have quickly realized, and, the work, again, I try to do with my clients is you are not prepared for this post-pandemic workforce.
Yeah.
Plus this new generation that comes in with a very different mindset.
Absolutely.
Because they will like, oh, you're not treating me well. Guess what?
I'm out.
I'm out. I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah, and I think the younger generation, I think they get a bad rap, and I don't agree with a lot of it because look, they tell they don't want to work, they just don't want to work for you,
right?
Because your culture sucks. So
right,
you got to really, and it takes leadership isn't easy. It's not. You got to care.
Yeah.
And you have to really understand that it's not about you. It's about them. And once you get that part figured out and say, okay, they're not here to serve me. They're really here to, they're here to do their jobs, but I got to show that I care about them other than just the job.
Right.
It's got to be about more than that.
You can't just be a taskmaster. That's
exactly. Yeah.
It's about, you have to be the mentor. You have to be the coach. You have to be the one that is going to nurture and care for their experience.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
You got to listen. And I mean, so when you put a person that was great at doing sales or whatever it is, and you put them in a leadership role and think they're going to be able to effectively lead without any level of training, you're delusional. It's just not, they're not going to do a good job. So unless the person themselves realizes, I'm not good at this, I need to get some help. And because and by the time, if you let that person just continue to be in that role and not successful, you're going to lose great people.
Yep.
You're going to frustrate the person in the role. It just snowballs.
And I think a big piece of what you just said that is missing for a lot of organizations is they have to nurture them and train them on what leadership means within that organization.
Yep, it does.
Because different organizational cultures, different expectations, all of those things. And so especially if you bring someone in who has managed people before, that does not mean that they'll be successful managing people in your culture, because there may be different expectations that are not spoken, right?
Yes.
That's just part of the culture. That's not written on the cafeteria wall.
Right.
But it's what
exactly.
people are experiencing.
Right.
And how would you know? I was working with a leader, coaching a leader, and he was so frustrated because he was just like, this is what I've always known leadership to be. I've come here and I feel like I'm a failure because nothing that I've done before has worked. And I asked the question, I'm like, did you ever get any coaching or training on what it means to lead within this organization? And she's just like, no.
See?
And so I'm like, we're setting people up to fail.
Right.
We have these high expectations, but then we're not doing what we need to do in order for them to be successful.
Absolutely, Sacha. That is, I'm hoping people, more organizations start to realize that. I mean, they've cut back a lot on training and doing things like that, and you're just not gonna be successful. You're just gonna be a churn. You're just gonna keep losing people. It's gonna be
more money.
That's right, and that's even more money, right? So yeah, I mean, you're preaching to the choir right now. This is when I get on stage to speak. All the things that we're talking about right now is what I cover, and and so I'm tracking with you 100% on everything you're sharing here.
Cool. So Calvin, if folks wanted to get in contact with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Oh, man, I'm all over social media. You can find me on LinkedIn, of course. I'm on IG as well. And if you go to @Iconic Speaker, that's where I'm at. My email, calvin@iconicpresentations.net. You can reach me there as well. So I'm out there pretty. I'm pretty easy to find.
We can find you. We can find
you. There's no reason you couldn't find me unless you're under a rock somewhere. I'm pretty easy to find.
Well, Calvin, thank you so much for this conversation. I mean, I think, like I said, we could have gone down several different paths, but it all comes down to like knowing your history, knowing and understanding where you are now and where you want to be in the future. And part of that is training your leaders of the future. And, all of these things are tied together. So thank you so much for the work that you do in the hospitality space and telling the stories there, but then also in leadership, because again, we need to have these organizations understand that their employees are their customers as well. Exactly. And so, you cannot treat your external customers better than your internal customers if you want to keep both.
Absolutely. You got that right. That is so right. Yeah. I am, like I said, I'm a huge proponent for frontline employees. So I'm totally with you on that one. But thank you for having me. Thank you for even seeing how important this subject matter is. If you don't mind, I want to just, this is the book.
There you go.
Yeah.
So wonderful. And we'll make sure that it's tied in with everything else when we put this out. So thank you so much. Thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope that you, as always, were able to walk away with a few nuggets, a few things that made you think, reconsider, understand the impacts of history on our present and our future, but then also leadership and how you are investing in your folks now, internally and externally, to ensure that you are creating the organization and the culture that you want. So until next time, have a good one. DEI After 5 is produced by the Leon Thomas Group. For more information, go to theleonthomasgroup.com.